Supreme Commander Helena Chen stood at the observation deck of Earth's orbital command station, her dark eyes fixed on the gleaming fleet exercises below. The latest Aegis-class destroyers moved in perfect formation, their hulls catching the golden sunlight as they demonstrated maneuvers that would have been impossible just a decade ago. Each ship represented humanity's refusal to bow to the Galactic Concordat's demands for standardization and limitation. A subtle vibration in her neural implant announced an incoming priority message. "Commander," the AI's voice resonated in her mind. "The Concordat's delegation has arrived ahead of schedule." Helena allowed herself a small smile. Of course they had. The Concordat's representatives always tried to throw their human counterparts off balance with such tactics. "Thank you, Aria. Maintain fleet exercises as planned. Let them watch." The Concordat's ship was beautiful in that ethereal way all their vessels were, all sweeping lines and crystalline surfaces that seemed to bend light itself. It was also, Helena knew, practically defenseless by human standards. The Concordat had grown so accustomed to peace that they'd forgotten the value of armor beneath beauty. Ambassador Lyraval, the Concordat's chief negotiator, was waiting in the station's diplomatic chamber. The tall, silvery-skinned being's 4 eyes widened slightly at Helena's military uniform. Most species' military leaders had long since adopted ceremonial roles. Supreme Commander Chen, Lyraval's translator, rendered their musical language into crisp English. "I had expected Earth's diplomatic course." "Ambassador," Helena nodded, taking her seat. "Earth believes military matters should be discussed by military leaders. We've reviewed your latest proposal." "Then surely you see its wisdom." Lyraval's inner eyes blinked hopefully. "The Concordat's Universal Defense Network has maintained peace for 12,000 years. Your independent military development destabilizes the entire system." Helena activated the room's holographic display, showing Earth's solar system. Red dots appeared throughout, previous attack points where hostile species had struck before the Concordat could respond. 12,000 years of peace for you, Ambassador. Humanity's experience has been different. Those incidents were unfortunate, but they proved the need for integration. With your fleet reduced and standardized, our response times will be exactly what they were when the Ravagers hit New Mumbai. Helena interrupted, adding another cluster of red dots. "Or when the swarm tried to establish a foothold on Mars. The Concordat's response times are measured in days, Ambassador. Humanity measures response times in minutes." Lyraval's skin rippled with frustration. "Your species insists on maintaining military readiness levels that haven't been seen in the galaxy since the Dark Ages. Your ships carry enough firepower to level planets. Your defensive stations are designed to survive." Helena finished. "Every human installation, every ship, every protocol is built with the assumption that it will be attacked, damaged, and forced to fight alone. We call it the Fortress Doctrine. It's paranoid," Lyraval said softly. "And expensive. Do you know what you could accomplish if you redirected those resources?" Helena stood, walking to the window. Below, the fleet exercise continued, ships now practicing damage control scenarios. "We know exactly what we could accomplish, Ambassador. We simply disagree on the price. Humanity learned through blood that peace through strength isn't paranoid. It's practical. The Concordat cannot continue to ignore your military expansion." Lyraval's tone carried a warning. "The Council is considering sanctions." "With respect, Ambassador," Helena turned back, her expression firm. "Earth's defense policy isn't up for negotiation. We'll trade with the Concordat. We'll coordinate on scientific research. We'll even help defend Concordat worlds if asked. But we will not compromise our ability to protect ourselves. You would risk everything to maintain this fortress mentality." "No, Ambassador," Helena's voice softened slightly. "We risk everything if we abandon it. Humanity remembers what it means to be truly vulnerable. We remember what it means to fight for survival. The Concordat has forgotten those lessons in 12,000 years of enforced peace, We cannot afford to forget." As if to emphasize her point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Helena's neural implant flashed with data. A rogue asteroid, deflected by some unknown force, was heading toward Earth's defense perimeter. Before Lyraval could even process the threat, human defense platforms were already responding, their coordinated fire reducing the asteroid to harmless debris. 4 minutes and 23 seconds from detection to elimination, Helena noted calmly. How long would the Concordat's response have taken? Lyraval's skin had paled to almost white. That was impressive. But surely you see such capabilities make other species nervous. Good, Helena said simply. Perhaps that nervousness will make them think twice before testing our defenses. That's the true price of peace, Ambassador, constant vigilance, and the strength to defend it. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way. We won't need to learn it twice. As Lyraval departed, Helena returned to watching the fleet exercises. Somewhere out there, she knew, humanity's next challenge was waiting. And thanks to the sacrifices and determination of countless humans who refused to compromise on defense, Earth would be ready. Dr. Sarah Martinez watched through reinforced glass as her latest creation tore physics apart. The experimental drive core pulsed with an angry red glow, its containment field rippling with energies that the Concordat had deemed too unstable for practical use. The readings on her holographic display told a different story. Power output holding at 300% above Concordat's standardized limits, her assistant, Dr. Kaiwang, announced. His fingers danced across the control interface, making minute adjustments. No signs of degradation in the containment field. Sarah nodded, allowing herself a moment of pride. The Avalon Drive, as they'd named it, represented everything the Concordat feared about human innovation. It was powerful, efficient, and completely ignored the artificial limitations that had governed galactic engineering for millennia. Dr. Martinez, Araya's artificial voice came through the lab's speakers. Admiral Torres requests your presence in the testing chamber. The Concordat Science Ministry representatives have arrived. Sarah straightened her lab coat, exchanging a knowing look with Kai. Right on schedule. Keep the core running at full capacity. Let them see exactly what they're dealing with. The testing chamber was a massive hangar, dominated by the sleek form of the prototype vessel they'd built around the Avalon Drive. Unlike the graceful, standardized ships of the Concordat, the Hyperion was all aggressive angles and reinforced armor. It looked like what it was, a warship that could outrun, outfight, and outlast anything in known space. Admiral Miguel Torres stood with 3 Concordat representatives, their ethereal forms seeming oddly out of place among the industrial functionality of the human facility. The lead representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with obvious agitation. This entire facility violates at least 15 different safety protocols. The being's translated voice carried clear disapproval. These energy readings, they're beyond anything our standards allow. That's rather the point, Observer Zenfel, Sarah said as she approached. Humanity has a rather different view of what constitutes acceptable risk. The observer's energy form flickered. Dr. Martinez, we've reviewed your preliminary data. The power outputs you are achieving. They're revolutionary, Admiral Torres finished, and exactly what Earth's defense forces need. They're dangerous, another representative interrupted. The containment principles you're using were abandoned by the Concordat ages ago due to catastrophic failures. Sarah pulled up a holographic display of the drive's internal structure. Those failures occurred because you tried to make the technology too safe, too controlled. We took a different approach. Instead of trying to prevent failure, we assumed failure would happen and built systems to contain and redirect it. The third representative, a being of flowing liquid metals, moved closer to examine the display. These backup systems, they're redundant. Triple redundant, Sarah confirmed. Every critical system has at least 2 backups, each capable of operating independently. If the main containment field fails, secondary fields snap into place microseconds later. If those fail, tertiary systems engage. The energy cost must be enormous, Observer Zenfel noted. Admiral Torres smiled. Still less than losing ships and crews to drive failures. Humanity learned long ago that true efficiency isn't about using the least resources. It's about achieving objectives regardless of cost. Sarah manipulated the display, showing the drive's performance data. The Avalon drive generates enough power to maintain full combat operations, even with 2/3 of its systems damaged or offline. It can be repaired in the field with minimal specialized equipment, and its modular design allows for quick replacement of damaged components. But why? The liquid metal being asked. The Concordat's standardized drives are perfectly adequate for peaceful exploration and trade. Because peace isn't guaranteed, Admiral Torres said firmly. Every piece of human technology is designed with one fundamental assumption, that it will be tested in combat, that it will be pushed to its limits when lives depend on it. Sarah brought up footage from their early testing. Watch what happens when we deliberately overload the primary containment field. The observers watched in horror as the drive core erupted in plasma, only to have the energy instantly contained and redirected by secondary systems. Impossible, Observer Zenfel whispered. The energy readings alone should have. Should have what? Sarah asked. Destroyed the facility. Killed everyone inside. That's the difference between your approach and ours. You design for optimal conditions. We design for worst-case scenarios. Admiral Torres stepped forward. The Avalon drive isn't just an engine. It's a statement. Humanity will not be bound by artificial limitations or outdated safety protocols. We will push the boundaries of what's possible because we must. And if you create something you can't control, Observer Zenfel demanded, then we'll learn from it and build something better, Sarah replied. That's another thing the Concordat seems to have forgotten. The value of failure as a teacher. As if to emphasize her point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Sarah's neural link flashed with warnings. A power surge in the test core, beyond even their expected parameters. The Concordat observers moved to flee, but Sarah and her team were already in motion. Containment field holding. Kai's voice came through the comm, redirecting excess power through secondary systems. Emergency protocols engaging. In less than 30 seconds, the crisis was over. The drive core hummed contentedly at its new higher power level, while automated systems adapted their safety parameters to account for the unexpected surge. And that, Admiral Torres said to the shaken observers, is how humanity handles the unexpected. Not by running from it, but by learning from it. Your report to the Science Ministry should be interesting. As the observers departed, Sarah returned to her lab, already calculating how to reproduce and harness the power surge they'd witnessed. The Concordat might fear the unknown, but humanity thrived on it. The Concordat's flagship materialized at the edge of Sol's defense perimeter, its crystalline structure catching Earth's sunlight like a diamond suspended in space. Aboard the Earth Defense Command Station, Strategic Director James Chen watched the tactical display with growing concern. Behind the flagship, more ships emerged from hyperspace, a fleet larger than any the Concordat had assembled in 1,000 years. They're deploying their peacekeeping protocol nodes, Lieutenant Emma Santos reported, her fingers moving across the neural interface, counting 47 separate deployment points around the system. James nodded, his augmented eyes processing the tactical data streaming through his consciousness. The Concordat's peacekeeping protocols, a network of automated systems designed to limit military operations within a given space. For 12,000 years, they had been the foundation of the Concordat's enforced peace. Status of our countermeasures, he asked quietly. Ghost Protocol is active and undetected, Emma confirmed. Our quantum interference grid is masking 98% of our actual military presence. As far as their sensors can tell, we're exactly as vulnerable as they think we are. On the main display, the Concordat fleet moved with precision, their ships taking up positions that would have effectively contained any normal system defense force. James allowed himself a grim smile. The Concordat was fighting the last war, using tactics that hadn't evolved in millennia. Priority transmission from the Concordat flagship, Emma announced. Grand Admiral Zeval requests immediate communication. The holographic projection of Zeval appeared in the command center, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical frame. Director Chen, the Admiral's translated voice carried both authority and resignation. The Concordat High Council has determined that Earth's continued military expansion represents an unacceptable threat to galactic peace. And so you bring a fleet to our doorstep, James replied calmly. Hardly a peaceful gesture, Admiral. This is not aggression, Director. The peacekeeping protocols will simply ensure that your military capabilities remain within acceptable parameters. No harm will come to Earth or its people. James studied the tactical display. The protocol nodes were nearly in position, their energy signatures building. Admiral, I'm obligated to inform you that any attempt to impose external control over Sol's defense systems will be considered an act of war. You have no choice in this matter. Zeval's energy form pulsed with frustration. The protocols are designed to be impossible to resist. They will limit your ship's power output, restrict weapons functionality, and enforce compliance with Concordat safety standards. This is for your own good. Impossible is a dangerous word, Admiral. James nodded to Emma, who activated a secure channel to Earth's defense grid. Humanity has a long history of achieving the impossible. The protocol nodes reached full power, their energy web beginning to spread across the solar system. On 1,000 worlds, such networks had brought recalcitrant species into compliance with Concordat standards. But Earth was different. Protocol activation in 10 seconds, Emma reported. Ghost protocol standing by. You cannot resist this, Zeval insisted. The peacekeeping protocols are based on fundamental laws of physics. The Admiral's words cut off as the protocol nodes reached activation energy. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, throughout the system, hundreds of previously invisible defense platforms shimmered into view, their stealth fields dropping as they engaged active countermeasures. Impossible, Zeval whispered. No, Admiral. Inevitable. James brought up a tactical display, showing the true extent of Earth's defenses. We've been studying your protocols for years, learning their weaknesses, developing countermeasures. Did you really think we would leave ourselves vulnerable to external control? The Ghost Protocol engaged fully, human quantum technology actively disrupting and reversing the peacekeeping protocols. Throughout the system, Concordat sensors registered impossible readings as human ships and stations operated at power levels far beyond what should have been physically possible. This technology, it violates every principle of the Concordat. Zeval's voice shook. The energy requirements alone are well within our capabilities. James finished. Humanity doesn't accept artificial limitations. Admiral, we never have. Every attempt to contain us, to control us, has only pushed us to develop new ways to resist. On the tactical display, red warning indicators flashed as the protocol nodes began to overload, their carefully designed systems unable to handle the quantum interference. One by one, they began to shut down, their network collapsing. Your fleet is now effectively surrounded, James noted calmly. Every ship you brought is covered by at least 3 defense platforms. Our ships are operating at full military power, while yours are limited by the very protocols you try to impose on us. Zeval's energy form dimmed. The Council, they were wrong about your species. We thought you were dangerous because you refused to accept peace. But you're dangerous because you understand something we forgot. And what's that, Admiral? That peace isn't maintained by protocols or limitations. It's maintained by the ability to defend it. The Admiral's form straightened. The Concordat will withdraw. But this isn't over, Director. No, James agreed, watching as the Concordat fleet began to retreat. This is just the beginning. Humanity won't be contained, Admiral. We won't be controlled. The galaxy will have to adapt to us, not the other way around. As the last Concordat ship vanished into hyperspace, James turned to Emma. Send word to all commands, maintain Ghost Protocol at full capacity, and prepare a report for the Defense Council. They'll want to know how our countermeasures performed. And the Concordat? Emma asked. They'll be back, James said, his augmented eyes tracking the quantum disturbances left by the retreating fleet. Not to fight, but to learn. Today they discovered that 12,000 years of enforced peace left them vulnerable to innovation. The question is, what will they do with that knowledge? Ambassador Maya Patil sat in her office aboard Harmony Station, Earth's diplomatic outpost in neutral space, reviewing the flood of incoming transmissions. Ever since humanity's successful resistance to the Concordat's peacekeeping protocols, the diplomatic channels had been buzzing with activity. Not from the Concordat, they had retreated into an almost contemplative silence, but from dozens of other species. Another request for a technological exchange summit, her AI assistant noted, highlighting a message from the Viridian Collective. That makes 17 in the past week. Maya smiled, remembering how these same species had once viewed Earth with suspicion and fear. They're beginning to understand, ARIA. The Concordat's failure showed them something they hadn't considered possible. Her holoscreen flickered as a priority communication came through. The image resolved into the serpentine form of Ambassador Krill from the Nexus Worlds, a confederation of younger spacefaring species that had always walked carefully around Concordat restrictions. Ambassador Patel, Krill's translated voice carried an unusual urgency. My government has authorized me to propose a direct military cooperation agreement with Earth. Maya leaned forward, intrigued. The Nexus Worlds had always been careful to maintain strict compliance with Concordat limitations. That's a significant shift in your policy, Ambassador. The Concordat won't be pleased. Krill's scales rippled in what Maya had learned was amusement. The Concordat's peacekeeping protocols were supposed to be unbreakable. Your species proved otherwise. More importantly, you proved that their way isn't the only path to security. We simply chose to rely on our own strength rather than external guarantees, Maya replied diplomatically. You chose to innovate rather than accept limitations, Krill countered. The Nexus Worlds have watched Earth's development with great interest. Your defensive technologies, your approach to ship design, your emphasis on redundancy and survival, they represent a fundamental shift in thinking. Maya's holoscreen lit up with another incoming transmission, this one from the crystalline assemblage, one of the oldest species in known space. She signaled Krill to hold. Ambassador, I have another call. Can we continue this discussion later? Of course, Krill's image flickered. But consider this. The galaxy is changing, Ambassador Patil. The Concordat's failure has opened many eyes. We would prefer to face that change with Earth as an ally. The screen shifted to show the crystalline form of Elder Ixt, their faceted surface refracting light, in complex patterns that supplemented their speech. Ambassador Patel, the assemblage wishes to register a formal protest. Maya kept her expression neutral. Regarding what matter, Elder, we have detected unauthorized technological development within our sphere of influence. Several of our protectorate species have begun experimenting with military technologies that exceed Concordat guidelines. They claim to be following Earth's example. The Concordat's guidelines are recommendations, not laws, Maya noted. Each species has the right to determine its own defense needs. These technologies are dangerous, Ixt insisted, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. The protocols exist for a reason. Without standardization, without control. Without control, species might actually develop effective defenses. Maya suggested, might create technologies that serve their specific needs rather than conforming to artificial limitations. The Elder's form stilled. You don't understand. The protocols, the standardization, they maintain peace. No, Elder. They maintain stagnation. Maya brought up a display showing Earth's defense statistics. In the past decade, Earth has faced 3 separate hostile incursions. Each time, our dangerous technologies saved lives. Our excessive defensive capabilities prevented war by making aggression too costly to attempt. And now other species seek to follow your path. The Nexus worlds, the fringe colonies, even some of our own protectorates. They see Earth's strength and wish to claim it for themselves. Maya nodded. They see that there's another way. That peace doesn't have to mean vulnerability. That innovation doesn't have to be feared. The Concordat will not accept this challenge to their authority, Ixt warned. The Concordat has already lost their authority, Maya replied gently. They lost it the moment their unbreakable protocols were broken. Now they face a choice: adapt to a changing galaxy or become irrelevant. After the Elder's image faded, Maya turned to look out her office window at the steady stream of ships passing through the station. Trading vessels, diplomatic shuttles, and yes, warships, more of them now, as species began to exercise their right to self-defense. ARIA, prepare a report for Earth Defense Command, she instructed. They should know that our example is spreading faster than anticipated. The galaxy is waking up from 12,000 years of enforced peace. And the Concordat's response? The AI asked. Maya watched as a Nexus Worlds battlecruiser passed by, its design clearly influenced by human principles. They'll have to make a choice soon. The old system is crumbling. The question is whether they'll help build something better or cling to the past until it breaks completely. Her screen lit up with more incoming messages, requests for technical cooperation, proposed defense treaties, invitations to joint military exercises. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was at the heart of that change. Humanity had shown that there was another way, and now that truth could not be contained. The grand chamber of the Galactic Concordat had stood unchanged for 12,000 years. Today, its ancient walls witnessed something unprecedented: a human standing at the High Speaker's podium. Fleet Admiral Helena Chen, now Earth's representative to the reformed Galactic Council, looked out at the assembled delegates from across known space. The chamber itself reflected the changes sweeping through galactic society. Alongside the traditional crystalline architecture, new reinforced sections had been added. Defense screens hummed quietly in the background, a concession to humanity's insistence that even peaceful gatherings deserved protection. 5 years ago, Helena began, her voice carrying through the chamber. The Concordat attempted to force Earth to accept limitations on our defensive capabilities. Today, we gather to formally recognize a new reality, one where strength and readiness are not viewed as threats to peace, but as its foundation. The assembled representatives, a mix of old Concordat powers and emerging species, shifted in their seats. Many wore military insignias that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. The Nexus Worlds delegation sat proudly in their new battle dress uniforms, while even the crystalline forms of the ancient assemblage had taken on more robust configurations. The Concordat's peacekeeping protocols were well-intentioned, Helena continued, nodding to the energy beings who had once led the old order. They sought to prevent war by limiting the means to wage it, but they forgot a crucial truth. Peace is not the absence of strength. Peace is the wisdom to know how to use that strength responsibly. She activated the chamber's holographic display, showing a map of known space. Defensive installations gleamed throughout, not just human ones now, but those of dozens of species who had chosen to follow Earth's example. In the past 5 years, we've seen remarkable changes. The Nexus worlds have developed their own unique defensive technologies, adapted to their specific needs. The fringe colonies have established mutual defense pacts that actually have the strength to defend. Even the Concordat itself has begun to evolve. Former Grand Admiral Zeval, now representing the reformed Concordat Defense Force, pulsed in agreement. The energy being's once ornate containment frame had been replaced with a more practical design, one that bore distinct influences from human military engineering. But with this new strength comes new responsibility. Helena emphasized, Earth learned long ago that true security isn't about domination. It's about balance. Every species has the right to defend itself, to develop according to its own needs and principles. Our role is not to control, but to cooperate, not to limit, but to guide. She brought up new images, joint military exercises between once isolated species, technological exchange summits, collaborative defense projects. The old Concordat sought peace through restriction. We propose something different, peace through preparedness. Peace through mutual respect between strong, capable species who choose cooperation not because they must, but because they can. Ambassador Corell of the Nexus Worlds rose to speak. The humans have shown us that innovation need not be feared. When the swarm attacked our outer colonies last year, it was our new defensive capabilities, developed with Earth's guidance, that turned them back. We lost ships, yes, but we saved worlds. The old ways had their wisdom. Elder Ixt's crystalline form chimed in. But they also had their blindness. We forgot that peace must be strong enough to survive challenge. The humans reminded us of this truth. Helena nodded. Earth doesn't seek to dominate the galaxy. We seek to help build a galaxy where every species can stand strong, where peace is maintained not by artificial limitations, but by the shared strength and wisdom of all. She gestured to the revised Galactic Charter displayed behind her. This new charter recognizes the right of all species to defend themselves as they see fit. It establishes protocols for military cooperation and technological exchange. Most importantly, it recognizes that true peace comes not from suppressing strength, but from teaching wisdom in its use. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. Throughout the chamber, representatives of 100 species signaled their approval. The age of enforced limitations was over. A new era was beginning, one where peace would be protected by strength, wisdom, and cooperation. Later, standing in her private chamber aboard the Earth flagship, Helena watched the delegates' ships departing. Each vessel told its own story of change. Reformed Concordat ships now bristling with point defense systems, Nexus Worlds cruisers incorporating both human and native engineering principles, even ancient assemblage vessels showing signs of practical adaptation. Message from Earth Defense Command, her AI assistant announced. They're asking for an assessment of the new security landscape. Helena smiled, watching as a group of ships from different species moved into joint patrol formation. A sight that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Tell them the galaxy is finally learning what humanity has always known. That true peace isn't a gift to be protected. It's a strength to be earned, maintained, and shared. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the dawn of this new age. Humanity had refused to compromise its principles of self-defense, and in doing so, had helped forge something unprecedented. A peace built not on restrictions and control, but on strength, wisdom, and mutual respect. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that made all the difference.